We are so back. Consider this a part 2 because I want to keep talking about what we were talking about in the last episode.
Let's do it.
I always have so many questions around nervous system regulation because it's something that everybody talks about all the time. And I'm somebody that likes tangible how-tos, not wishy-washy, airy-fairy. I'm a Virgo. I need structure and the hard-hitting facts. And then I need a to-do list on what steps are required of me to get from A to B. That is just something that I personally need. And you're a great person to have this conversation with because you've just done a lot of research around it. I think that there are a lot of people who probably feel the same as I do with that topic.
It's so interesting because she speaks on astrology. I can't wait to actually have an astrology human design type talk because it is fascinating how we interact based on our placements. And so, yes, the airy-fairy is sometimes really hard for people to just be whimsy. And a lot of times, the ones that are the most whimsy are actually highly dysregulated. I hate to say it, and I'm probably going to get some feedback on that one.
Well, because they exist up here.
They do. It's not in the body. It's not. It is out of body in the way that your energy is not grounded within the physical vessel like we came here to do, right? And it's a kind of a form of escape, if you ask me. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be a therapist. There's no part of me that is on that path. And also, I know that there's studying that I've done and my own experiences. And that's what we've kind of come here to do is like, we're bringing this to you from a lens of our own life experiences and the research and the resources that we've culminated along our self-discovery journey in a way that hopefully something we say creates a space for you to have the opportunity to meet yourself somewhere, right?
And be curious and dive deeper too. Because again, that's also great to start out with. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm a licensed cosmetologist technically and a certified yoga instructor. Okay. So like outside of that, this is all self-made.
If you ask me though, anyone in the beauty industry should have a therapist on their certification because we basically sign up for that in this industry. Like any type of customer service where you have people coming in regularly, you are a form of a therapist because you are a sounding board for whatever is going to come out for them.
That part. Is this what the kids are doing because this is great for a podcast instead of clapping? Like it's like not even snapping. It's just a little bit of this. But yes to all of that. I'm a non-board certified therapist.
In just human experience.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Human experience.
That's all this is. So anyways, take all of this information that we give and chat about and do with it what you wish and go deeper. Self-study is huge. Get interested.
Yeah.
If you're feeling called to like dive into a topic, honestly, even we probably have a book for it. So
yeah, if you have questions. I mean, the book I'm reading right now is Anchored. It's about the polyvagal theory. And it's a great book if you want to dive deeper into the nervous system. I'm not totally through it yet. And I think that there will be episodes that we do later on that have more information about that. But it is something that I think that we now have everybody saying that they do some form of regulation, right? Nervous system regulation, the hot topic. Let's do it. And that's great. And also, we are living a very human experience and there are stimuluses around us all the time. And if your nervous system is used to a level of anxiety, fight or flight, freeze, fawn, any type of that, you may be stuck in a place that like you don't even realize. One of the things that I realized was meditation when I first started doing it was actually me freezing because it was a place that I could escape. So it is something that I had to build a relationship with in a way that I wasn't using it as a coping mechanism or an escape. I need to go meditate. Well, Part of that was my dysregulation.
You're really just like going in a corner and shutting the fuck down. I could see that.
Yeah. So that was part of my work that I had to do with nervous system stuff is I can get quiet. I can get grounded. I can stay very in my own energy.
How did you come to that conclusion for yourself?
I was listening to different podcasts. There was a podcast that really pinged me. I think it was through Know Thyself. Don't quote me, but it's one of the people that he had on. There was something that someone he had on said around meditation in that way. And I was like, holy shit, it's a form of escape for me. Because the environment that I was in that time, that was where I could create safety of like, everything was so chaotic and everything going on in my life just felt like it was like falling apart. And I was so dysregulated in those moments that I was like, oh, only thing I have to do is go be quiet and sit in a corner. And it was really me just like fully shutting down and not ever returning to speaking on what was coming up for me or being able to have the safety of that part. Therapy helped me with that too, of like being able to come forth and talk more, learning more about my human design and what centers were open and what was coming up for me in those moments also helped. So there was different things that I did that weren't just nervous system regulation, and to catch myself. And maybe I need to be facing something instead of avoiding it in this way, because really honestly, I could probably sit in meditation for 3 hours and be just.
How did your meditations change when you were in this state of just escapism versus now, for instance, when you really can like drop into your channel and things actually are coming through and you're getting the downloads?
So when I was in dysregulation, my channel wasn't really open.
So you notice the difference between that version and this version.
Because I was blocking everything. It was like, I don't want anything coming in. I don't want the noise of my life coming in. I don't want the noise of the universe coming in. That was my shutdown.
What comes to mind for me is a density. Like density all around you and within you that consolidates so that your channel can't actually open to receive the information that you're probably meant to receive during actual meditation.
And here's where she's psychic, just so you know. So movement within my meditation became something that was really important. Meaning how I was seated, actually moving and twisting my body to allow the energy to start moving. That part for me opened up things so that I was transmuting my own energy at that point. I was creating space for that density to release so that I could be more open and also get more regulated. Holding and storing that energy in my body wasn't what I needed to do. Sitting in that wasn't what I needed to do. Movement was what I needed. It could be movement at the gym. It could be going to yoga. It could be any of those things. But in those moments, I was pushing back on everything in my life. And so it was really opportunity for how can I create a practice that meditation becomes a moving meditation. For me, it was more so, how can I get further in my body, safe in my body, my breath in my body, to move the energy that needs to be moved in a way that I can expand. Tape also helped with that during that time, because that helps clear this energetic body in a way that I could get more present and actually like really start to dive into what was going on.
And for those who don't know, hape is a sacred tobacco snuff that is taken in ceremony that really just helps you drop into your body. It's fucking crazy. We should have a whole episode on that too. We should do hape before we do an episode and see if people could tell the difference.
I'm sure they can.
But anyways, what I think we should touch on real quick is all of the different responses. So the fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I think that these can be buzzwords for people and they don't actually know what they mean or how to identify them within their own selves.
So fawn is one of the newest ones, and I know probably the least about it, so I probably won't touch that much on that one at the moment. Fight or flight, I think, is the one that we mostly know, right? Because fight or flight is really the nervous system being in a dysregulated place. Your polyvagal nerve goes from your brain to your gut. It runs through your diaphragm. So a lot of times when you are in dysregulation, you will notice a difference in your breath. That was something I learned on this process. Fight is that I'm going to battle. My system is going to battle. And
you feel amped.
Flight is I'm running from the situation. Freeze is I'm so overloaded, I cannot move.
Or make a decision or really much of anything.
Yeah. I cold plunge as well. I coach through cold plunging, and that is one of the best resets for your vagus nerve. It takes most people out of fight or flight and puts them into rest and digest. And that's where we want to get to, is being able to get into connection versus protection. That is what you are moving between, is protection and connection. When you go into fight or flight or freeze, you're going more in a protective state. When you are regulated, you're going more into connection. At least that's my understanding from all the stuff that I've done. And it makes sense, because when you are in a place of dysregulation, the last thing you want to do is be open to the person that has upset you or wronged you or made you feel a certain way, or go into the environment that created the space of lack of safety, because to you need to protect yourself from that lack of safety instead of staying open to being able to have connection. Connection is where the healing comes from, though. Connection is where we go back into regulation. So that part is where our growth can come from, is noticing when I'm in protector mode versus when I'm in connection mode. And why am I in protector mode? Some of it's really subconscious from our childhood.
I think something that has been subconscious from my childhood has been the idea of safety, and like kind of what we were talking about in the last episode. I'm like, do I want to get into this right now?
Pull the Band-Aid off. Let's do it.
Okay, so my childhood, I felt like my dad was always the safety. He's like the most funny, loving, easygoing person, but like he also he would fuck somebody up for the sake of his family. And there just had been instances growing up where we lived in the city, and the neighborhood that we were in was kind of on the decline, and there was some riffraff. Let's just put it that way. And he was finding himself in like altercations with people. There were some situations where like our garage or his work van had been broken into. Just not great shit. And I think maybe subconsciously, well, I don't think I know, because I did a little mushroom journey on my own, and this was something that came up. And what's interesting is I hadn't thought about this in years, but as a child, I think I knew when that like stress and tension would come up in the household. I think as a child, I probably knew what was going on, even though it wasn't something that I actually could articulate in my little kid brain, if that makes sense. So I always felt like, I mean, even though my dad lives on the other side of the country, my dad is still my sense of safety. Like I call my dad for everything, which is a really beautiful thing. But during this little mushroom journey that I had, I realized that would be him in his fight mode. And how did that affect me? And how did him feeling lack of safety in those moments affect me as a child and then into adulthood? And in what ways do I maybe subconsciously keep playing that out in my head? Like, oh, maybe I'm not safe here. Maybe outside of me isn't safe for some reason. Should I be on high alert? Is that why I'm always like a little like this?
It's really interesting that you say it like that.
Why?
So my thought process when I'm like sitting with what you're saying and kind of allowing the channel to be the channel, right, is where after that would happen, with you being the empath that you are, did that energy entering the environment actually vibrate in you in a way that on a cellular level you were storing that information?
Something I never really realized or thought about again until I plummeted onto this journey of self-discovery. As this all came up in the mushroom journey, I remember sitting on the couch, and it was that part of the journey that I'm like, man, I can't wait for this to be over. I'm so uncomfortable. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to be sober now. Thank you for showing me what you showed me. Please, can this come to an end? I was sitting on the couch, laying on the couch right here. And I'm just like, okay, nope, dial it back. What's the lesson? And what was coming through so prominently was you are safe. Safety is within yourself. What are you going to do with this information? How are you going to cultivate that within yourself? If everything was stripped away from you tomorrow that makes you have this perceived sense of safety, how would you feel in here? It kind of became a mantra from that experience that I will tell myself now of just like, you're safe. You're fine. I always throw in a little Nick Flair drip. I'm like, you're fine, bitch. You're safe, bitch. Calm down. It's okay. And it helps. Even just that whole story I told, it's like that's way deeper than just, oh, why am I feeling edgy today? You know, it's like, well, could be something random from your childhood that you haven't thought about for 30 years until you were tripping on some mushrooms. Like, shit, I don't know.
Yep. It'd just be a random Tuesday.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was a mess. I'm all like, you know, I got tears. My hair's all crazy. Sal gets home and he's like, oh God, where'd you go? And I'm like, I'm just so glad to be back. It was one of those. But in all seriousness, that was such a good example of identifying.
Because there's a piece of it that comes from survival, right? The masculine in general is the protector. You were protected. Your dad was protecting you. And also, where was his lack of safety coming from in a way that he felt like he had to fight for survival? And I think that runs really deep with masculine, and I think that's deeper than what we're meant to go today. What I will say on that is it's such a gift for you to be in the role that you are now of your own journey in a way that you're able to recognize that, fuck, that wasn't mine to begin with. I don't need to hold on to that anymore. How do I create that safety? And something that you said, if everything was gone that creates safety in your life, how do you create regulation within that? And that's something that is the deeper layer of work that I'm doing now, because my life is being stripped away layer by layer in a way that I have never had before. I thought I had that when I started this journey, and in reality, the universe was like, actually, no. And also, we're going to show you how good it can get. And that's the trust that I now have, is like, the good is coming. It's been here. It's showing up more and more each day with the more I strip away, the more that I become unattached to what it looks like versus how do I feel without these things. And where was my identity too attached to the things? And where did I lead from that place? Because I know that part of my work was two things that I really led with for my lovability or my worth was financial and sexual. And those layers of my work, I know, are not even close to being done. There was something on TikTok today that was like, she's like, I've stepped back from being prey, and it cut to that sexual wound of leading with my sexuality and like almost being like prey, that I was like, oh, I'm not ready for that yet. And
Really?
And also, I'm like, I get what she's saying.
In what way?
Think of like sexuality as being an object.
Okay.
You're an object of someone's desires. And
like you're the object.
I'm the object.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm leading with I'm an object. That's where my worthiness comes from. That is the work that I've had to do around. That is not my worth. My worth is.
It kind of has nothing to do with literally anything if you think about it.
No. It has nothing to do with anything. But that was the wounding from the collective, and also the childhood in which I grew up in, that created the space for me to cultivate that was all I inherently had. You know, like I go back to, I couldn't be the smart and the pretty girl, so I chose to be the pretty girl. And then I realized that I abandoned my level of intelligence in a way that I shoved it way down and had to reconnect with it in my 30s. And that story ran deep in even me switching my degree in college because I wanted to be the fun party girl instead of being the smart girl that was like doing her homework at night. When you objectify yourself, you become prey to those that are in a denser energy that are actually not in the frequency in which you're supposed to match.
What was the other thing that you said?
My worth was in my financial part. I grew up in money, and I was always able to provide for those around me. And my lovability came from that providing. People were friends with me because I had the money and that I would spoil them. And I really had this deep place of, if I don't have that, then I'm not lovable. And this part of my life, what I'm going through currently, is stripping that away.
That's how you know I'm a real one.
Because when I have millions, you'll know me when I didn't, and it'll be great. Yes, I'm speaking that into the universe, and yes, that will happen in this lifetime. I'm very, very sure of it. But that's the gift of this work. None of that was easy. All of that sent my nervous system into crazy places.
And I think that that's where so many people continue to exist, because it is way easier to just shove it down and actually not go there with yourself than it is to just chug along and act like none of it's happening.
Yeah, it's definitely a choose your heart.
Also with that, something that I've noticed is, since I've been on this path, I can tell, and I think the people who are closest to me can tell, my frequency has completely shifted. I mean, like, the music I listen to is different. My overall attitude towards life in general is completely different. I'm not even kidding you. A couple of years ago, when I still lived in Rochester, and we were at this point, what is it? We're in March now. I lose track of time. In March, and in the midst of a blizzard, ask Sal, I would wake up every day, open up my window, it would be gray and snowy, and I would say, today's going to be the day I take the bridge.
Stop it.
Yeah. Like, I'm literally going to jump off a bridge. I hate this. I hate all of it. And now I wake up every day and I open up my windows and I look at the sunshine and I think, I love my life. And all joking aside, though, there is something to that. I mean, the words that I'm like more particular about the things I say, how I speak to people, how I treat them, and the level of intentionality I have. And oh my God, and there's so many different things you could talk about in this, down to like, what kind of food are you putting in your body? What are you eating? Are you eating fried food all the time? It creates this density in you that makes it really hard for you to raise your frequency, your vibration, right? And what I've noticed is, in doing so, I've experienced some friends fall off. I think it's because my new up level of frequency bothers them.
They're not a frequency match anymore.
Because it's confronting. It's like holding up this mirror to be like, this is all the hard shit that I've really worked on for the past couple years. I'm an open book. I'm here to talk about it. And instead of taking it personal, I'm just like, I wish you the best.
Well, and that's the really honoring of what you've moved through, and honoring where you are now versus where you were. Because, you know, there's a piece of me that's like, I hate when we talk about up leveling and all the things, because it feels like we're pedestalizing where we are versus where someone else is. And we are all here, guys.
We are all the exact same.
We are all on the exact same plane. You may have more knowledge in one area that I don't have, and that is a gift. That is your strength, and that's coming from a really like grounded place. Your strength is your strength. We are still equals, and people might bring this up like privilege and you're white and all the things. I understand. Our humanness has created a dynamic societally that we have created this hierarchy of illusions that I think we're dismantling right
It's
now.
literally all made up.
We made this up, guys. We created the suffering that we have. Like, it is an illusion of our own doing. And that's the part that it becomes really difficult for me, because I'm like, again, I'm no better than you. And the things that I went through are no worse than the things that you went through. They're just different. They are mine. So they created my trauma. Gabor Mate helped a ton with that stuff with his book, Myth of Normal. Your trauma is your trauma because it was meant for you in this lifetime for you to learn the lessons in which you learned. That does not mean that mine is worse because of the degree in which it happened to me or did not happen to me. It is being able to hold space for whatever has happened to you in the degree it's happened to you, and letting you know that would be hard. And loving you through that process of being able to let go of how that story lives in your body. We all love a good story. We got a great storyteller up here. Keeps us real safe, right? And even what I remember from my childhood is a story that I have played out in my mind to this point. Does that mean that is exactly what happened when it did? No. What was the feeling, though? The feeling will never change regardless of how the story changes.
The feeling is real.
The feeling is real. And that's where energy lives. And that is what you're meant to let go of. But you got to detangle the story to get to the root of the feeling so that you can move through. And those roots, that's what's hard for people to get to, because you're wrapped up in the story. And the story is where your victim lives. And your victim keeps you safe. And that safety, a lot of people don't want to go past that wall. There's like this visual of, it's all over social media, but you have a vase that has balls that sit in the bottom, and the balls are your trauma. Big T, small t, whatever it might be, right? Those are the stories of your life that had things that have happened to you. And then you start to pour water in when you start to do therapy or go to energy healing or start to work on these modalities of self-discovery. The water rises, but the balls start to go to the surface. When the balls get to the surface is when you're like, absolutely not. This is worse than when it happened.
You're like,
I'm not doing anything else. So you stop pouring water in. If you really let the water continue to pour in there, guess what would happen? The balls would fall out and you would be left with a vase with water in it. But what happens is, if when you stop pouring that water in, you've gotten to a certain point and you're letting the trauma just sit on the surface, eventually the water's going to evaporate. And guess what's going to happen? The balls will start to drop down in the vase again. And then you energetically are still holding on to those stories, but maybe worse, because your adult version of you has now created a further story around it.
a new story.
A new story.
The frequency of what that is different than the frequency of the person who has filled up all the water and confronted all of those trauma balls. You know what I mean? And gotten to the point of like finally starting to feel better and more regulated.
And that's where I would say the dense energy is like the easiest way to explain this. Think of gravity, right? Heavier items will sink further down. Lighter items will float to the top, right? And so like even think of a balloon versus a rock. One stays on the earth, one floats above. When you start to work with the denser energies, the deeper parts in your body, the releasing of that energy allows you to start to float, create lightness, be able to move through the world more with ease versus tension, versus resistance, versus contraction. A breath is a contraction and an expansion. So if you think of a breath, when you breathe, when you inhale, you're expanding. When you exhale, you're contracting within the body. But in reality, the expansion actually happens in the exhale because you're releasing out of the system. So yes, we breathe in a way that we create an inhale and an exhale, which is actually the opposite of what our system does energetically. Contractions are felt when we tighten. We tend to hold our breath when we're in a contraction. But when we actually exhale and loosen the body, release the system, even though we pull things in, like we're supposed to pull our muscles in our proper breathing, when you actually relax the system, it's going to exhale. I will probably come back to a lot of nutrition and workout stuff because that is part of my background as well. But think about a muscle. When you lift, you're contracting a muscle when you are pulling on the weight. So the hardest part of the trauma is when you're still pulling and holding that weight. When you release the muscle and you release the weight, that is where the expansion happens, right? Tension versus the release. So what's coming through is to talk about bringing awareness to your contractions in your body. That's going to show you where energy is being stored, that you're meant to bring breath to, that you're meant to bring awareness to. It's something that I work on in meditation with clients. When you go deeper into your breath, right? Come deeper into this place of like presence, and then start bringing awareness when you take a deep breath in. Where in your body do you feel contraction? I just felt a contraction in my left shoulder when I breathed in. I'm not going to attach a story to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to breathe into this deeper. So then I exhale out. Now with my mind, when I breathe in, I can even put my hand here. But breathing in, my awareness is in this spot now. Just like I work with people to bring awareness to their heart space when they breathe. That is some of the easiest ways that you can start working with your own system to see where in your body you're holding tension in a way that your breath can start to bring some expansion into a contraction.
That's a very helpful tool. And it's simple. Yeah. But what I will say is you have to come to that place of stillness with yourself first. It could be challenging for people, the scatterbrained squirrel types, to just like, all right, I'm going to start this breathing exercise and let's see what happens. And now I'm better at doing it on the fly. But again, it's practiced. What I find is when I'm able to sit with myself, I almost mentally put everything that's going on internally in my brain, the chatter, I think about putting it into a box and closing the lid and putting that box somewhere else. And that's usually what I'll do first. And then I'll start dropping into meditation with the deep breathing. In my meditation this morning, I start breathing deeply into my body. This was what I learned in Justina's class. So Gyan Mudra is fingertips, index finger to thumb with straight arms. And when you take a deep breath in Gyan Mudra, you almost feel it more in this area, like in your chest. It seems a little more shallow. You're conducting energy just by doing this with your fingers.
And those have elements connected to them, and they're also connected to different parts of you. So like your thumb is fire, your index finger is air. So think of fueling a fire. Your solar plexus, your diaphragm, is the sun. It's the fire element. You are fueling it with your own air. You are igniting the fire in your system. So that is why you feel the warmth in this part of your body when you start this breath. Because it is adding air to fire. Think about when fire gets to air, how it expands, igniting the system.
See, thanks for having more information, because I just experience these things and sometimes I don't have words for it. So, but Justina was like, okay, start like this. Thumb and ring finger. I'm not sure what it's called, but take in a few deep breaths and the breath drops all the way into your body.
It's a different element. I don't know which element the ring finger is, but it's a different element that connects to it.
Yeah. Even just these little micro shifts.
Just a finger movement.
Finger movements. Yeah. That's it. That's all it is. And to notice how your breath feels when you're just doing this versus switching and doing this. And so I was sitting with this for a minute and letting the breath go really deep. And that's where what came up for me was jaw pain. I have been like on and off with this really intense jaw pain. And I just put all of my awareness on my jaw and use my breath to literally like loosen my face up. And it helped, but
there's some deeper things in there. It's fine.
She getting a little tight again though, probably from all my yapping. But still, Like, that's a great and super simple, tangible tool for people to start expanding.
Well, and I think that that's what we really want to get to with you guys. And to kind of wrap up this ending is like, we ended the last one on something that's a very tangible tool that you can take with you and hopefully you can start to use, or maybe if you have questions, letting us know. And then today, ending with this feels very resonant on allowing space for you to start using some of these tools. See what works for you, see what doesn't. That's part of this process. Is each client that I sit with or each person I sit with, we are all uniquely who we are. And something that may work for me may not work for you. And that's where your discernment comes in of like, I tried it, it didn't work for me.
It's worth having the curiosity and testing different things out.
Yeah.
Because you might get to that like one little nugget or one little modality or whatever it is, another tool in the toolbox, if you will. That could be the thing that changes your life and sets you up to be in a regulated state more frequently.
Yeah, to come back to the beginning of being more in connection versus protection and creating a space that you have that opportunity to move and toggle between those two with the amount of safety that you are meant to. It's raining. Holy shit.
Damn, I love a rainstorm. I used to see rain and feel anger because it rained every day and it was just mopey and sad. And now when I see rain, I'm like, oh my God, it's raining. How beautiful. I want to go dance outside in it.
I feel like that would be really regulating for our systems after this, actually.
Would it?
Uh-huh.
Should we?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go play in the rain.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Satnam, bitch.